All right, good morning, everybody, to all those online, councillors, our operational team and support today, and Vihan from the press. All welcome. We'll say the opening affirmation for this morning. For this meeting, seek knowledge for understanding, have purpose in all that you do, stand tall, be strong, let us show respect for each other. Apologies, we have an apology from Peter Ewan. Any other apologies?
Through the chair, Andy Campbell's going to be running a wee bit late.
Thank you, Mark. All right, do we have a mover for the apology from Peter Ewan?
Happy to move that, Chair.
Mark. Thank you, Alan. Seconder. All in favour? Yes.
Aye.
Carried. Any declarations of interest?
No.
No declarations of interest. Right, we move on to reports. 4.1, Westport Flood Protection Scheme, Scheme Reset, Level of Service, Funding Approach and Authority to Consult. Over to you, Phil.
Thanks, everyone. Good morning. Just acknowledge first up, given the substantial nature of the report and the pace with which we're moving through this, I'm going to take some time just to summarise, recap most important parts rather than just assume that it's readable all across it, if that's okay. So,
Thanks, Phil.
thank you. So, as councillors are aware, the Westport Flood Protection Scheme has required a reset to achieve a more optimal scheme that better balances protection, affordability and insurability in a way the community can sustain. As we have reported to you very recently, that extensive reset work is now complete. The Westport Rating District Joint Committee has met and provided its advice, and the statutory consultation that keeps a January 2027 construction start available closes within days. So today we come together for three really important things. Councillors are not being asked today to approve construction or to commit ratepayers to the full cost of the scheme. That decision is scheduled for December 2026. Today you are being asked to confirm the level of flood protection to consult on, to authorise a formal public consultation so the community can have its say before any commitment is made, and to allow design, consenting and land access work to continue while consultation runs. Stopping that work now would push the program out and add cost. So today, council is being asked to decide on three things: the scheme level of service for the Westport main scheme, and notably the inclusion of Carter's Beach protection as an addition to the main scheme, a funding approach and local share arrangement to be released for special consultation. Number two, whether to undertake a special consultative procedure to seek community views on the changes proposed. And lastly, whether the project team has explicit mandate to continue design, consenting, land access and procurement work up to a construction gate later this year in December 2026. Without those decisions today, the consultation document cannot be adopted on the 1st of September. The December 2026 construction gate cannot be reached and released, and preparatory work risks continuing without a clear mandate from you. So they are the reasons for us coming together today. If I can then move to the report summary, please interject at any time for clarifications. If I can move to the report summary. I wish I could summarise it more, but I'm kind of going to have to just cover it word for word, to be fair, because it all matters. So we've reviewed the scheme in detail, and two scenarios are being promoted. What we call scenario 2, a core protection scheme, which is what we consider as a minimum viable scheme, and scenario 4, an optimised hybrid scheme. Both deliver a 1.5% annual exceedance probability level of service with 0.4 metres of freeboard on the Westport main scheme, and are sized to exclude a flood comparable to the July 21 Buller River flood and coastal event comparable to Cyclone Fahey. Scenario 1, which was the original high protection scheme that we were pursuing until recently, and scenario 3, which was a near-term climate ready scenario we were promoting have been set aside on affordability and are recorded as alternatives considered. Flood protection for Carter's Beach is additional to this reset of the main scheme rather than part of it. Structural protection at Carter's Beach sat outside the funded scheme scope and was expressly excluded by the Kawatiri business case funding arrangement. It is separately costed and separately funded, and it is designed to the same 1.5% AEP standard, but it has a 0.3 metre of freeboard allowance rather than 4 metres, reflecting the lower energy environment of Carter's Beach and the correspondingly lower hydraulic uncertainty. We are recommending today that Council approves scenario 4, an optimised hybrid scheme as the preferred option for a revised level of service, authorise a special consultative procedure on that basis, and mandate preparatory work continue to December 26th construction date. We met with the Westport Rating District Joint Committee last week. Their feedback also favoured scenario 4, the optimised hybrid scheme. Scenario 4, the optimised hybrid scheme, cost $38.7 million to complete against $18.8 million of net funding available. Therefore, a main scheme shortfall of up to $19.9 million. Carter's Beach protection is an addition to that reset scheme and has an estimated $6.5 million to complete, less $2.8 million of dedicated co-funding, meaning it's a net addition to the shortfall of $3.7 million. That's the same under both scenarios, scenario 2 or scenario 4. So Carter's Beach is not a point of difference between those two scenarios. With the requirement to add flood protection for Carter's Beach to the main Westport scheme, that combined shortfall is up to $23.6 million. On the basis the full shortfall plus the existing ratepayer commitment to the Westport flood protection scheme of $10.2 million is met by a targeted rate by Westport Rating District. The model Westport loan rate on an average house and land value of $369,150 rises to $535.54 in financial year 2030 and $660.14 by financial year 2034. It's about $20 a year more than scenario 2. Scenario 4 costs approximately $1.03 million more than scenario 2 and buys a climate-ready footprint at 15 constrained locations around the scheme that would be very expensive and difficult to implement later if raising the stock bank height was ever pursued. The financial position has been modelled in detail since the reset material was prepared. Council borrows through the local government funding agency and, as an unrated council, is bound to a net debt to total revenue covenant of less than 175%. Updated modelling of both the promoted scenarios, scenario 2 and scenario 4, shows that ratio peaking in FY 29-30 at 120.1% scenario 1, scenario 2, and 143.7 under scenario 4, within the covenant in both cases. Expressed as a capacity that would leave approximately $10 million under scenario 2 and $9 million under scenario 4 of additional debt funding capital cost before that limit is reached. It is important to note, however, that this headroom needs to be available for any and all capital projects across the region delivered by the Regional Council. The current estimate of known works of which is $8.6 million. It also needs to cover matters such as, but not limited to, any unforeseen emergency funding, and that's over and above the established $1 million catastrophic fund, and any other currently unknown capital works or any unplanned operating deficits. Council has some decisions to make this year about emergency provisioning in its position and risk appetite it wishes to take on held funds and liquidity, and depending on those decisions that you get to consider and make, some review and rephasing of the future expenditure associated with Westport protection scheme may be required. The risk of proceeding is that if council consults on a scheme whose funding path may be impacted by future decisions and events council either makes or is exposed to. That risk is managed by disclosure to you all today, by gating the construction commitment rather than the consultation process, and by monitoring the forecast covenant position as the Westport Flood Protection Scheme costs firm up through the consenting and tender processes and as other council decisions are made. No Westport Flood Protection Scheme construction contract would be awarded that takes the forecast net debt beyond the covenant without further report to and agreement with council. The risk of not proceeding today is really worse. The Westport Flood Protection Scheme preparatory works stops. Program extends day for day against a fixed funding envelope. The loss of a construction season is going to be measured in years, not days or months, and Westport will remain exposed to the flood hazard. So the next steps today are to adopt the consultation. Well, the next steps coming will be to adopt the consultation document this week, inclusive of an audit opinion, open the submissions on the 7th of September, receive the advice of the Westport Rating District Joint Committee after it considers community feedback in late November, and then take the construction gate release decision on the 2nd of December 2026 and adopt the consultation. Sorry, team, I know that's a mouthful, but that's trying to summarise 6 months of work and process ahead of us. Any questions or comments on that before we seek to?
Councillor McIntyre.
Through the chair, yeah, I've got some major concerns on page 7, if you want to turn to page 7, paragraph 2. Nowhere near,
Councillor, just get to page 7, paragraph 2.
nowhere
Okay.
near it mentions Snodgrass. And if you look at the funding build up there, you've got $1.8 million of private funding, which I organised for Snodgrass and Carter's shared. It wasn't for one or the other. And also $1 million, which were put forward from the councillors for the 4 rating districts for Snodgrass and Carter's. So Snodgrass seems to be like the poor cousin here. It's left out. So I wonder where that fits in. It's not gone from the scheme. I want to know where it's at.
CEO, can you respond to that on behalf of the council?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make some opening comments, but if Bill can come in as well. Firstly, I want to say that the council is still 100% committed to flood protection at Snodgrass. And that commitment has not wavered at all. As councillors know, Carter's Beach, Snodgrass and any works at Organs Island were not funded by the business case awarded by the government. We have to move on Carter's now. If we don't move on Carter's, we will not get a consent to build the main bullet banks, and we have to get through the consenting and the building and the funding of Carter's to allow the whole scheme to go ahead. After we get through the main banks and Carter's, we are going to be proceeding on Snodgrass at that time, but it's got to be in that sequence. In terms of the funding, I want to acknowledge that the third-party funding from the businesses in Westport was earmarked for Carter's and Snodgrass. At the moment, what we're recommending is that we use that money to fund fully Carter's, but acknowledge that half of it should go to Snodgrass into the future, and what we're endeavouring to land through tranche 3 of the RIF is third-party government funding, similar to what we've now just or about to hopefully secure from Carter's for Snodgrass and other monies. So we can actually, Councillor McIntyre, note that in these minutes that we can actually then address the funding for Snodgrass at a later date and put that money back once we address the funding issue for Snodgrass into the future, just like we have with Carter's. But I want to say we are committed to Snodgrass. We have a concept design which has gone through about 4 different iterations. We have had a very good meeting with Snodgrass residents, albeit over a year ago. If the Snodgrass residents would like us to come and meet with them again and reassure them of what our plans are, then very happy to do that, and want to reassure that we have not dropped Snodgrass off at all.
Okay, thank you, Daryl, for the response. But can I have that added to this paper, put into here, as in the minutes?
Yeah, we'll put it in the minutes.
In the
what I've
minutes,
just said, Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, well, so what I'll get the governance staff to do is to write, capture what I've just said, it's all being recorded.
Yep.
And express it extensively in the minutes, that undertaking,
thank you.
yeah.
And I do understand, through the chair, I do understand the sequence of building, because obviously with the Buller Banks, you're going to put Carters under pressure. I fully get that, but I just want to make sure that they're all Westport residents here, and Snodgrass is a part of it. That's all.
What I would also say, Mr. Chairman, is it would be wrong to think that there is one rating scheme for the main Buller Banks, another rating scheme for Carters, another rating scheme for Snodgrass. We established as a principle very on in the project, Carters Beach, Snodgrass, and all up the Buller is all Westport.
Correct.
Is all Westport. It
Correct.
is one scheme.
Yep.
And everyone will be subject to the same rating issues, and it's not like Snodgrass or Carters will be rated independently of everyone else. It is one community of Westport.
I'll be happy with that if that's in the minutes and recorded. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor. Any other questions?
Oh, just a clarification. We got $2 million for adaptation, didn't we? Now, was that tied to Snodgrass?
The adaptation fund, and I'm going to look at Penny if I get this wrong, but I'll start, Penny, and if I get it wrong, you jump in. But the adaptation fund is not for structural flood protection for building flood banks.
That's right.
It's for any properties that are left behind from the scheme that we can't protect, that could have adaptation funding assigned to them, such as flood proofing, etc. What we have to do is we have to, through this process now, regroup on the exact number of properties that are not protected by the scheme, and then revisit through the adaptation fund,
Yep.
how we're going to apportion the distribution of that fund. Penny, please.
Just a question. How many properties are in Snodgrass?
Snodgrass has 30 properties.
30. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor McIntyre?
So just through that adaptation fund that Councillor Birchfield's raised, that's for all of Westport, not just Snodgrass.
That is
That's
correct.
all of Westport.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the fund that comes through from the BDC,
no, from the government.
from
the government.
BDC to us.
The government assigned the administration of that fund to BDC.
Yeah, yeah.
But before the steering group was abolished by DIA,
Yeah.
that money was transferred across to us to
Yeah.
administer.
No.
What I want to say, just to follow up to Councillor Birchfield's question, is the original business case said it wasn't possible to put a flood bank around Snodgrass through
That's right.
through our engineering investigations. We've debunked that, and the original concept design that we've come up with protects through a flood bank 26 of the 30 properties, but we think we can do even better than that in a next iteration of that design. And we're still deeply committed to that without elevating flood levels across the other side of the river.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any councillors? Ashley, any questions online?
No, no questions from me. Just want to acknowledge the work Phil and the team have done on this. There's a significant amount of detail in the papers, and definitely nice to see the endorsement of the working group or the joint committee as well. So I'm happy to support what we've got in front of us.
Thanks, Ashley.
Through the chair, question, Phil. When do you see, and I'm not going to hold you to a date, when do you see in say the year 27, tenders starting to get released and some action happening on say the main banks of Buller or Carters? I know we already know about Avery's, but when do we see, and the people of the Westport residents see some action?
Yep.
I'm not holding you to a date.
Well, I'm happy for you too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
but I'd like
that's
to
what
know.
We have to measure ourselves too. So we already have some work programmed to start, subject to your decisions and the consultation and
Yep.
decisions in December,
Yep.
starting in January. Okay, we need to get out to the market late this year.
Yes.
To then bring on the next construction, which is earmarked as the floating lagoon. We then, in the first
end of the first quarter of 27.
Yep.
Need to be going to the market around construction for Carter's Beach and Upper Buller. So it all starts to happen in the first half of next year. To answer your question around Upper Buller, when can the market expect to see offers and requests? Yep.
So, yep, good. So the year 27, we're looking at basically the Buller main scheme, Carter's main scheme, Floating Lagoon, and Avery's.
Correct.
Thank you.
It doesn't get much less busy from then on.
No, I get that, but we want to see action, that's all. No, good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from any councillors? Andy?
Yeah. What's the likelihood of getting some more RIF funding? Quite promising.
Yes, I was going to, thanks councillor Campbell, comment on that as well. I want to say publicly that we are doing a lot of work around further funding, external funding scheme. And I'm not at liberty to be able to talk about that at the moment, but there is a high probability of further external funding being awarded to the scheme from at least one, if not two, different sources. And I know that that's sort of asking for some trust and confidence from the community, given the cost escalation on the scheme. But I want to say that we are absolutely committed and doing a lot of work to get in third-party external funding, as well as additional RIF funding, especially for Snodgrass, but also possibly for the rest of the scheme. And we're doing a lot of work on that at the moment. And I am hoping that if that is successful, then the cost pressures on the community from this cost escalation of the scheme will be lessened. All I can do is say what we're doing at this point, and I can't, promise anything. But that is all I'm saying is there is a high probability of external funding coming in addition to the income we've got for the scheme at the moment.
Thanks, councillor Cole.
Just for my benefit, could you clarify the consultative process?
Yes. So the special consultative process is a process defined in the Local Government Act. It is a process that you run through as part of usually a long-term plan or anything that breaches your significance and engagement policy. And the changes to the scheme as compared to what we consulted on in 21 has been looked at legally, and we have to consult. It is not an RMA type process with hearings by independent commissioners. It is not that. It is a special consultative process where the consultation document is issued. It has got 1 month for submissions by anybody that can submit on it. And then when it comes to hearings, and I want to say that the hearings will be run in Westport, in the community of concern, and the people that hear the submissions are you as councillors. Okay, you as councillors, not independent commissioners, anything like that. You as councillors hear it, and you are the decision makers. We did exactly this 18 months ago for Franz Joseph with the next tranche of Franz Joseph work, if you will recall, councillors, and apologies those councillors that weren't on council at that time. We ran a special consultative process down there, issued the document, got the submissions and the feedback back in, and then councillors sat and heard. And if people want to tick the box to be heard, they can do that. And then councillors hear the submissions, read the submissions, and make the decisions. We need to do that, Phil, by what date?
October 7th.
Thank you.
Well, that's when the consultation closes.
Get a council meeting.
Councillor Cole.
Just wondering, with the consultative process that we're going to be involved in, will we make sure that our specifications on the new design and new layout are going to be adaptive enough and free enough that we can actually avoid having to go through another consultative process again?
Yes, I want to confirm that is our intention, but I also want to say that next week, the special consultative process document that will go out for submissions with the information in it, firstly, before it's issued, comes to this table formally for review and debate at this table, and then adoption. So you'll get a look at that document, and you need to make sure that those bases that you're raising, Councillor Cole, are covered in there, and you get an opportunity to do that next week.
We can probably start this week. It's subject to change from the auditors.
Any other comment?
Yep.
And then Andy.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Just John, on this here, I'd just like to talk through the headroom and what it means for council, and just put some things into context from where we currently are. So at the moment, we are well within our covenants, and this is mainly with the LGFA, and there's statute across this as well of how councils need to operate through their financial management and their prudence across that. If we look at our current annual plan, our debt affordability benchmark is 105%, and that's with a ceiling of 175%. Just recently, the LGFA have really been quite explicit in that keeping within our covenants is important, and they take it seriously from their side. And a few weeks ago, they had a workshop and really spelled that out. Looking at, and in the context of this conversation here, I'm really going to talk about scenario 4, which is our preferred model, and that takes us to a peak within the 30-31 year of 143, I would say 144%. So it's quite a jump from where we currently are within our current annual plan to that point. I think what is, we need to be clear, this and that covenant is based on the Westport project. What it doesn't do is take the full region capital spend into account, or any other activities that we take as a council that relies on loan funding. And that includes the TPPP, and there may be our emergency funds. So we do have other areas where we rely on loan funding.
Just while I got you there, Colin, through the chair. So you're talking 175 or 130? Would you say 130? 143. That's across the West Coast, and that's based in 2034, is it?
That's right, but that's the only, getting to that point only takes a Westport future spend into account.
100%, but that doesn't take any government funding between now and 2034, is that correct?
It's taken only agreed funding.
We've
got a contract in place.
Yeah, so there's no external, no extra funding.
No extra funding.
No, okay.
So this has all been premised off, we've got a contract for funding in place, and we've been looking at it that way. So it's really the birds in the hand rather than other funding.
A lot could change in November.
Yep. So this is very much where we are now with the facts that I've got in front of me, and I'm just going to talk through with taking in the region-wide costs and debt, likely debt going forward. That does increase our ceiling to close to, or if not over, our banking covenant. In saying that, we're going through the LTP process at the moment with a 27-37 10-year period, and that will better inform where that's going to be looking like over years 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I just thought it really prudent that we do need to take that into account, and the risks we have across this would be our, we've got a commitment across our capital projects across Franz Joseph, Akatika, and Greymouth, and that's, I think it comes through in the paper, it's about 8.6 million. What we do need to keep a buffer or be cognizant of that for any emergencies, we need to have a fund or access to money, access to cash to supplement any emergencies over and above the 1 million catastrophic fund. And that there as a proxy, we could use a prudent reserves as a proxy for that, of the value and worth of that, because where it occurs in that rating district, the chances are they'll call that funding, and we need to have the funding readily available. The second part that we need to be aware of is that we've got our mining bonds. Now it's very, very unlikely that all that mining will stop on the coast. I think that's extremely unlikely. It's my job is to just call that out, that we do have an exposure across our mining volumes. The third part, which is equally important, is that this business case and our annual plan and our going into our long-term planning is really premised off a break-even budget. That any blowout in budget has to be funded from somewhere, and where we've been working to, that will actually have to be loan funded, because we've got to remember that going into this here and our net debt takes our investment fund into account, and that's a net position in getting to where we currently are. Just really, my job and my function here is to call that out and to take questions and for you to really see that and how we manage that going forward from a risk perspective. I think it's the other side of this, and it comes through in the resolutions, it comes through in the paper. We have safeguards put into place that will alert council if we're nearing or going to breach our covenants. And the first one, I think, which is most key, and I think comes through in the last resolution, is that any commitment made by council into contractors or construction needs to come to council, and what we then need to do is test it against our covenants and be really, at that point, I think that's a crucial step before we go out to market. We test it through the procurement process, we test it to safeguard council that we don't get near to the covenant limit. What we're also planning to do is to have a workshop with council where we'll provide more detail across our debt and our treasury management. And within there, one of the considerations we need to make as council is what buffer is council comfortable with? And that's really comes down to the risk appetite that you want to hold as a council. Through the chair, I think that's all I have at this stage. Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Colin. Any questions, Chris? Councillor Cole?
Just included in that would be variances in the contracts that are, let's say let a tender, been a successful tender, but unexpected variances that come up would have to be really, really tightly.
That's watched. So that's more of a question in full space, but yep, that will have to be monitored, and realizing variances can go both ways.
Yes.
And that's really comes to me how we manage our contingency and the governance we have over our contingency. But Paul can add to that.
Nothing to add other than this.
But part of that is, how we said we're not going to let a tender go that it's going to push us over that threshold.
Yes.
The 175% threshold. Does that include the variances that you like to may or may not encounter? Does that include in the whole tender price, the variances as well? Or is it only just when you're looking how close you're getting to that 175% area, only work on what the successful tendering price was?
Or I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is we've got the tender price.
Yeah.
And we may have a contingency attached to that line.
Yes. Decisions have to take account of the actual net debt that council may have to bear. So they have to take a realistic account of how could it contractually move and how could council bear. So yes is the answer. Yes, so it's a live situation.
So you could have a successful tender, but his variances, his or her variances might push it so close to the threshold of 175%. They say, no, we can't accept that tender. Is that
Yeah. So the way
that's
that
right?
contemplates is that large tenders already nothing special anyway. That's delegations come to council. So if that's coming to council, then you'd obviously get the commentary that shows, hey, look, this is a tender to let for $2 million. Council considers it's got $3 million of headroom. So actually there is a risk that if this tender inflates by $1 million, we've got an issue, and that's a decision of council. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Councillor McIntyre?
Through the chair, I'm pretty sure, Councillor Cole, that would be done through the tenders committee, and that would be up to us, and the headroom would be explained to us. Is that the correct procedure?
100%, yes, absolutely. And staff give an undertaking that in
We get the
consideration
right
of
information.
any expenditure through the tenders committee,
Yeah.
the implications for debt headroom will be a specific section and explained very clearly to you.
Yep.
What I would also add is that the project costs that we're going to be consulting on do include a 15% contingency around construction.
Thank you.
Yeah, quick questions. How long are we gonna put the loan over for?
The,
Colin?
the Westport loan is currently over 80 years, and that's been agreed, and the plan is to keep it to that 80-year period.
And the other one, like $660, I think it was for $350,000 property or something.
360. Yep.
So, Mark and Chris, like the residents would be quite happy to pay that, wouldn't they?
We
What
got
do you
me down to that.
And what's the general feeling here?
Up until we've just had this, this amounts come out, we haven't had any idea, so this is all brand new, so we're about to find out.
Yeah, so could I just answer that question? So that's exactly what the consultation process is about, is to consult the community on the scheme and its design standards and its associated costs. So, with respect to the two constituent councillors, I'm sure that they're equally interested in what the community has to say as well.
Councillor McIntyre?
Through the chair, I think Phil Rossiter illustrated it well at the joint rating committee meeting, that the extra bit of what you put future proofing on scenario 4, a hybrid scheme, was an extra $20 per annum for the average property in Westport, which to me, it's not, it's a bottle of beer today, isn't it? It's not a lot.
That's
$20.
no-brainer.
I mean, it's to protect your home. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, because the only problem will be is people that got flooded will be quite happy to pay that, but runs up the back. We'll start. Hopefully they don't.
It's the same in Greymouth. I live up on the hill, but we're all paying.
Got to go to the shops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your services come through the town.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're all in.
Yep. Agree.
But
Well, we got to sell that to them.
That's part of the consultation process, as CEO has alluded to.
Yeah, I'm in the same scenario as Alan. I don't get flooded, but at the end of the day, we've got to have a community, you've got to have a town, supermarket, pitch theatre. You've got to make use of those, you've got to pay for it. Simple.
yeah, our water's going off next week because this line coming through from Coal Creek has been upgraded. So we're all tied into those services that come through those areas. So
Yeah.
But a question I want to ask, last week we talked about 70 million, this for Phil. The figures you give me now, this was the total forecast for 70. Are we down to 44 million? Is that's the forecast for the scheme now? It's down to 44 million.
Yeah, correct. And that's a really good distinction. Thanks, Councillor Birchfield. We could talk about this in gross costs, or we could talk about it in what does it actually mean for council in terms of shortfall in the community. So I've tended to talk of those latter terms, but you're dead right. If we hadn't done a thing and started anything, then for scenario 4, for instance, not scenario 2, we're talking about a total forecast cost of $42.1 million, okay, for the main scheme, and then 6.5 for Carter's Beach. So that's total cost, yep. But what really matters here is what's the cost to complete and what are we short, and that's why we've wrapped it up to the bottom line. So we are saying for scenario 4 with adding Carter's Beach, we are up to $23.6 million short. And I want to point out those 2 words, up to. That was to the CEO's point before. We see this as a ceiling in an envelope, certainly not a spending target. And so an awful lot of focus will go onto this project. Can't have time to do one of 2 things. New funding in that displaces the need for ratepayers, and also to prove and resolve risk allowances that mean we don't have to address them and we can just pull that. That makes sense. So that's why I use those words, up to. Yep.
So So we've gone from 70 down to, have you got a reasonably fixed figure? You mentioned a few there.
Yeah, and it just depends on the scenario. So look, yeah, it's going to be 70 if we keep going with the other one. We haven't even given apples for apples risk comparison to the detail we have here, because it is not good use of our time, ratepayers' time, etc., to keep proving that. But yes, to build the high protection scheme, Alan, would be north of $70 million.
Yep.
And by the way, that's not unique to Westport. That's exactly what that scheme would cost anywhere in New Zealand. Yeah. Okay. And yes, what we're saying here is the alternatives being promoted are just over half of that cost. So in the low, 40 million plus or minus. Yep.
Yep. Good. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Councillor,
Yep, just on those numbers, Bill, on page 6, shortfalls, at 23.6, has that got a 15% contingency installed in that?
Yeah, it's general contingency.
Yeah.
And it has some construction risk contingency in it as well. So actually that $23.6 million shortfall for getting the main scheme done and Carter's Beach is up to $10.4 million worth of contingencies and risk allowances in it. Okay.
Right, so stay with the tailwind and everything in our favour.
Cool.
It could be $10 million less than that, so it could be 13.6. I'm not holding you to it, I'm just saying it could be.
So it's all probability and risk. The probability of not spending $1 on identified risk is very low.
Yeah, I know. No, it's not real.
Having to spend every dollar is very high. So the reality is we would expect it to be somewhere in between.
Yeah, so worst case is 23.6, best case is 13. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell.
I'd like to congratulate Phil for putting this stuff in this report, because a lot of the other reports we haven't seen it, and then boom, we get a big cost blowout. Never been allowed. At least Phil's got it in here and it gives you
Yes.
confidence.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
And Phil, I'm just conscious of any member of the public who may be online. If you could just explain what 1.5% AEP level with a 0.4 metre freeboard is.
Sure. Thanks, Colin. Yes, that refers to essentially the height, the crest of a stop bank or a flood protection structure, and it's relative to the flood it is designed to exclude. So AEP stands for annual exceedance probability, which is the statistical probability that a flood of any given size will occur in any given year. Okay, so 1.5% AEP essentially equates to, in colloquial speak, a 1 in 67 year flood event. That is comparable to the worst of the floods that got Westport in July 21. So that means something. That's something we can hang our hat on. People in Westport know what that was like. We know the damage that caused. So that is what both of these scenarios are designed to exclude entirely. With any living systems, rivers, etc., there is uncertainty, and that's where freeboard comes in. And so this scheme is being designed with 0.4 metres of freeboard on top of that to cater for uncertainty. I hope that sort of gets close to explaining it. Well, it doesn't mean that just if we've had that flood, we don't get it again for 67 years. It doesn't mean that at all. It's about the probability that that happens in any year. So statistically, yes, what it means is Westport has a 1.5% chance of being hit by that same comparable flood event in any 1 year. And over a 3-year duration, if it takes us 3 years to do this scheme, our exposure is 3 times 1.5, so 4.5% chance that that same flood comes along in 3 years, within a 3-year period. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, no, you explained that well, Phil. So for everyone in the boiler, Westport knows the 21 flood worth 100 above. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Penny?
Chair, if I could just add the consultation document with a glossary of terms in it to help the community understand some of these technical terms. Plus there will be frequently asked questions on the website. So we're hoping there'll be lots of material available to.
It's good to hear, Penny. Thank you. Any further matters, or we'll go to the recommended resolutions? Okay, I'd just like to also reiterate what you councillors have said around the table, and also Councillor Cashin online. A very, very big thank you to Phil, Penny, and all the team, Amanda and all the team who have worked on this project. I am well aware as chair that there has been a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat and tears have gone into this process. And we've got to where we've got to today as a consequence of that effort from our team in Westport. So thank you very much from us all. Going to the resolutions, I'll read the resolutions so everybody's aware of them. The first resolution, recommended resolution, is to receive the report. The second is to approve scenario 4, optimise hybrid scheme as its preferred level of service for the Westport flood protection scheme being a 1.5% AEP standard with a 0.4 metre of freeboard on the Westport main scheme, together with targeted climate-ready geometry at 14 constrained locations, and being option 2 in the special consultative procedure documentation, taking account of the advice of the Westport Rating District Joint Committee. 3, approve for consultation the funding approach and the local share arrangement set out in this report. Amended long-term plan modelling that rates the revised Westport main scheme together with Carter's Beach Protection includes the 10.2 million local share already committed, assumes no additional central government funding, and meets a combined shortfall of up to, and reiterating up to, 23.6 million from borrowing repaid through a targeted Westport rate over an 18-year term. Approve council undertaking a special consultative procedure under sections 83 and 93A of the Local Government Act 2002 on option 2 in brackets scenario 2 dash core protection bracket, and option 2 scenario 4 dash optimised hybrid bracket, with scenarios 1 and 3 recorded as alternatives considered and set aside on affordability grounds. Resolution 5, approve the project team continuing design, consenting, land access and procurement work within existing approved funding until council takes the construction gate decision in December 2026. Resolution 6, note that Carter's Beach Protection is additional to the reset of the Westport main scheme designed to a 1.5% AEP standard with 0.3 metres of freeboard and separately costed and separately funded, but is included in the consultation and rating modelling because the hydraulic modelling makes it a condition of the main scheme progressing. Resolution 7, note that updated modelling shows the scheme can be accommodated within council's net debt to total revenue covenant of less than 175%, peaking at a forecast 143.7% in financial year 2029/30 under the recommended option, and that council may need to review the phasing of expenditure depending on decisions it is yet to make about other capital works, emergency provisioning, and its held funds and liquidity, and agrees that no Westport Flood Protection Scheme construction contract be awarded that would take forecast net debt beyond that covenant without a further report to an agreement of council. Do I have a mover for those resolutions?
Can I just ask you a question before we move that, please? Where in there that could we mention about the Snodgrass side of it?
As indicated by our understanding CEO, that is all mentioned in the minutes of this meeting. So these resolutions relate to this paper. But the issue you raised, councillor McIntyre, has been well recorded in the minutes of this meeting and will become part of the record.
Okay, well, we can promise that Snodgrass is not going to be left out of the picture because it's all part of Buller. I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, councillor McIntyre. Second, councillor Cole. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Thank you, councillors, for your contribution today, and thank you, Phil, for your contribution, and you too, CEO Darrell. There being no further matters, we declare this meeting closed at 10:20 AM. Thank you all.